This podcast is made possible by you, the supporters of WPLN and WNXP, Nashville Public Radio.
This is the Nashvillager podcast. It's April 29th, 2025. On this day in the year 1900, a train engineer named Casey Jones brought his locomotive into the Memphis station after a run from Canton, Mississippi. Another engineer was scheduled to take that train back to Canton, but he was sick. Jones volunteered to take on the job. But of course, sorting all of that out had delayed the train. Jones thought he'd make up for lost time by speeding things up. Things went well for about 170 miles, but then, rounding a curve near Vaughn, Mississippi, Jones suddenly saw another train coming right for him on the same track. He knew he couldn't avoid a collision, but he could at least slow things down if he stayed at his post. He told the man stoking the locomotive's fire to jump for safety. Jones stayed in place, slowing the speed as much as he could until the trains collided, killing him. But by staying at the helm, he was able to reduce the impact of the wreck, saving the lives of everyone else on both trains. A few years later, the story of Casey Jones' fateful last ride became famous as a ballad. It became a hit, first on the vaudeville circuit, and then as an early commercial record. He became a folk hero. His story was made into radio and TV dramas. And to this day, his home in Jackson, Tennessee, is a museum devoted to trains, history, and the sacrifice he made for the passengers on those trains. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee with historical context from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. I knew who Casey Jones was long before I realized he lived in Tennessee. The first time I noticed a sign on the interstate advertising the Casey Jones Village in Jackson, my reaction was, why on earth is it there, of all places? Never imagining that a legendary train engineer would live in this state. I guess it didn't even cross my mind because in my lifetime, we've had almost no passenger rail at all. I mean, Amtrak does run through Memphis, and there's a single commuter train line here in Nashville, but that's it. We're hardly a train hub. Nashville used to be one, though. Back in the Civil War, our location as a nexus for train lines made this city incredibly valuable. Once the Union took control of Nashville, this became the place for organizing troops and supplies before sending them down to the battlefields farther south. And in the generations after that war, enough passenger trains came through the city to justify the grand beauty and enormous train shed of Union Station. The shed is gone now, in case you were wondering if you'd missed some major structure. Union Station has been a hotel for the last few decades. And before that, it was vacant for years, because intercity passenger train service in Nashville ended in 1979. When Joe Biden became president, talk started to circulate about bringing Amtrak back to Nashville. We were hearing all kinds of indications that it really might happen. A train could connect our city to Chattanooga and Atlanta for the first time in a really, really long time. So, you may be asking, where does that idea stand now? Well, in this era of DOGE cutbacks, that's a very good question. On the one hand, Elon Musk has seemed to suggest this nation needs more trains. He's made comments complaining about the lack of a really excellent national train system, comparing Amtrak to the train networks in countries like China that depend heavily on trains as one of the primary means of moving people from place to place. But unsurprisingly, that point of view doesn't mean he thinks the government should invest more heavily in the train service. Quite the opposite. He suggested Amtrak should go fully private. Trump's transportation secretary, Sean Duffy, has mostly just talked about the need to get tough on crime in Washington, D.C.'s train station, rather than directly addressing Musk's suggestions. And last month, amid all of that, the CEO of Amtrak abruptly resigned. So, as you might imagine, nobody's really saying right now if there's any thought of moving forward on the expansion that could conceivably bring Nashville back into the loop. That's probably far more granular than anyone at Amtrak is thinking at the moment. They're all just trying to suss out how long they'll continue to exist in their current state. And for those who would like the chance to travel by train from here to another city or state, it's particularly frustrating to see those talks stall out right now. Last year, Amtrak set an all-time ridership record. Its ticket revenue hit the $2.5 billion mark. So if you just look at those numbers, it seems like this should be a great time to make a move and bring Amtrak back to cities like ours. In just a few minutes, for the second time this month, Nashville Public Radio's Justin Barney interviews a nationally famous artist who rarely gives interviews. You already heard his conversation with Bon Iver. Coming up after the newscast, it's time for Father John Misty.
On This Is Nashville, we're taking a journey into the identity of this place we call home. The old and the new, the glitzy and the gritty, the monumental and the human. What makes Nashville tick? What makes it unique? And where are we headed as a city? We're going deeper on the day's news, bringing you dynamic conversations and taking you with us out into the community. Join us weekdays at noon. This is Nashville.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. The state trial for 3 former Memphis police officers involved in the beating death of Tyree Nichols is underway. During opening arguments yesterday, a jury chosen from Chattanooga area residents was shown video of the violent traffic stop. Prosecutors said the officers had a duty to stop their colleagues, but instead joined in. Attorneys for the defense said Nichols was resisting arrest and that the officers, quote, wanted to do their job effectively. The charges against them include second-degree murder, aggravated assault, and aggravated kidnapping. 2 other officers involved in the beating are expected to change their plea to guilty. All 5 officers have been convicted on federal charges. Sentencing in that case is expected to take place after the state trial is concluded. A historic black church in downtown Memphis linked to Martin Luther King Jr. has significant damage from a fire that started early yesterday morning. The Claiborne Temple was the organizing point for King's 1968 campaign protesting the inhumane treatment of about 1,300 black sanitation workers. The church had fallen into disrepair, but for the past several years, the community spent about $25 million to restore the 19th century structure. Memphis Mayor Paul Young says efforts to rehabilitate Claiborne won't stop because of the fire.
It represents a commitment to community, a commitment to rights for all people, and that work will continue.
It took firefighters hours to put out the blaze. The head of the Memphis Fire Department says the inside is a total loss. The department's working with Memphis Police and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Explosives to determine the cause of the fire, but the investigation will remain active until the church is safe enough to enter. Nashville-based Meharry Medical College is adding 8 new medical clinics to its network. The goal is to expand Meharry's impact, improve training opportunities for its students, and generate new revenue. The clinics are located across the greater Nashville and Memphis areas. They employ 172 people, including healthcare providers. Meharry President Dr. James Hildreth tells the Tennessean the clinics will eventually accept all patients, regardless of insurance status, and that some of the facilities will eventually have dental clinics as well. Middle Tennessee is getting a new home base for disaster response. The state's emergency management agency broke ground on a project that will house a new hub for the region. The regional office is now based in a leased warehouse. The new facility will have a helipad and multiple backup generators to prevent power loss. Director Patrick Sheehan said the warehouse in particular will mean more rapid response times in Middle Tennessee.
The state-of-the-art warehouse will house essential supplies, including food, water, medical equipment, and disaster recovery tools that will be readier for immediate deployment. In times of crisis, speed is the killer competency, and this facility will dramatically reduce the time needed to get vital resources to where they're needed.
Construction will cost about $60 million, according to a press release. This month, the General Assembly approved funding the facility through a bond debt. A basketball player who went from TSU to NBA championships has died. Dick Barnett played for Tennessee's historically black state university in the late 1950s when it was called Tennessee A&I. The men's basketball team was a powerhouse back then, winning 3 consecutive NAIA championships, the first HBCU team to win a national title in the sport. Barnett was the tournament MVP 2 of those years. The point guard went pro in 1959, playing for the Syracuse Nationals and Los Angeles Lakers before joining the New York Knicks. He won championships with that team in 1970 and 1973. Barnett's number 12 jersey was retired in 1990, and he is still 9th on the Knicks' career scoring list. In his retirement, Barnett was a vocal advocate for his college team. helping the Tigers secure a spot in the Basketball Hall of Fame. The Knicks announced Barnett's death on Sunday, but did not provide any details about his passing. He was 88 years old. You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org. Musician Josh Tillman is the person behind the persona of Father John Misty. Or is it the other way around? Tillman's reputation as a provocateur and chimera reached a fever pitch about 7 years ago, and the songwriter stopped talking to the press and public altogether, only performing. In a rare interview, Tillman spoke with Nashville Public Radio music reporter Justin Barney about his latest album and his disappearance from the spotlight.
I'm not a good pitch man for these records.
That is Josh Tillman, who is Father John Misty, talking about why he took a step back from the public eye.
It felt like I was kind of going uphill against a certain perception.
The perception is basically that he's arrogant, and maybe takes himself too seriously. And this stems from the fact that Father John Misty is this kind of heady project that kind of might be a meta-commentary on itself. Or might not. Let's go back to the beginning. It's 2007. Indie folk is booming. Josh Tillman starts a folk project called J. Tillman, and he makes songs that are very earnest.
But now the living are alive.
These songs go nowhere.
I've been playing for 30 people.
And then he joined the band Fleet Foxes as their touring drummer. And it was like peak Fleet Foxes. While Fleet Foxes are at their highest power, Josh Tillman quits the band and he starts this project, Father John Misty.
That Canadian shaman gave a little too much to me, and I'm writing a novel.
The debut album, Fear Fun, was this kind of like drug-fueled, romantic intellectualism that fit perfectly into the hipster era of 2012. Smart, provocative, swaggering, kind of funny. It seemed like he had all the answers, and so people flocked to him. He became the indie rock it man.
It was so disorienting. You know, I was like 10 years in the game, and then all of a sudden there was sold out venues and stuff, and I was very suspicious and freaked out. I was like really convinced that these people had come to the show all to see me fall on my face.
People really wanted to figure Father John Misty out, and they still do. Father John Misty is Josh Tillman writing as Father John Misty, singing about Josh Tillman.
I mean, it's like a therapist's nightmare. You know, it's this like Bergman-esque psychodrama where this Father John Misty construct just really has it out for this Josh Tillman guy who keeps writing like increasingly more humiliating songs. You know, I really will dial up to 11 aspects of my personality that there may really only be like trace elements of.
He really dialed up the snark in his songs.
Betting Taylor Swift every night inside the Oculus Rift.
And he had a couple of moments in interviews and in public where he admits he was petulant and difficult to be around.
I actually don't really like talking about myself. And that was part of the problem, is that I just felt really defensive. I needed a break. I needed a good 7-year break.
In the intervening 7 years, he released a couple of fantastic albums, including his most recent, Mush Mahana.
The act of creation may one day produce a happy man.
And he has broken his silence by talking to a couple of people, including me. And in this new album, he still talks about himself, talking about himself, without truly giving away who he is.
More Eastern thought. You're not meant to discredit the physical experience that we're having, but the perspective is more that we're born actors onto a stage, and the assignment is to also liberate your immortal soul. I do hear a lot of artists talk about how music is a form of therapy. I've never quite viewed it that way. If anything, music has been a way to exasperate those issues or to make them worse.
And maybe fans and critics are working a little too hard to define Father John Misty. He certainly doesn't seem concerned about it.
I wouldn't want to figure myself out, you know? Because I don't really want to become like some kind of fixed, known entity.
I do think that Josh Tillman, Father John Misty, whoever he is at his most whatever he is when he is behind a microphone and on a stage.
I mean, I love being on, I love doing it.
You're so good in front of a crowd.
Thanks. Well, yeah, I mean, that's probably its own form of mental illness.
And even if we can't figure him out, he's entertaining.
I'm glad that I've made it to a place where it isn't like so fraught or ambivalent of an experience most nights.
For Nashville Public Radio, I'm Justin Park.
You can hear Justin's entire conversation with Tillman now at WNXP.org. We do this roundup of Nashville news every weekday, so subscribe in your favorite podcasting app to make sure you never miss an episode. And if you like this, you'll probably enjoy the Nashvillager newsletter, too. You'll get perspective from more of my colleagues at Nashville Public Radio and links to the stories we're following. Sign up for those daily emails at WPLN.org/Nashvillager. Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one, and we'll catch back up tomorrow.